Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
And I'm the nerd with the mouth, David.
Alliance Assemble,
Assemble.
Volume 246. And we took last week off. News was pretty much non existent, but we knew this week would be on because we have new content, new Marvel content. We have the first two episodes of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to break down tonight, David. So it's always an exciting time when we get to break down content at that point. But I know we have thoughts. We have many thoughts on this show.
Yeah, new and exciting. So, of course, with new and exciting comes lots of thoughts and a chance to deep dive. I mean, it's one of the most wonderful times. It's not like revisiting an old property. This is something new and fresh out the gate.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yep, we are doing well, Fifth Jack. Thanks for joining us as always. We appreciate it. Hopefully you are doing well, my friend. But yeah. So how has your week been, David?
Week has been busy with work, and I'm in the process of moving, which is why behind me looks a lot more bare than it normally does. But other than that, just trying to get some things knocked
Yeah,
out.
you having a fire sale?
Yeah, it's like someone
Everything
came
must
in,
go.
just swooped it all out. With all the move and me recording two podcasts this week, though, I haven't quite decided if the office is going to be the first thing to move or the last thing to move. Just depends on how everything works.
Yeah, it's been. I can relate to a different type of busy. Those who know at that point, as I said the week before, but it's been a very good and exciting time for me. And it's been a good, like I said, but busy week, and looking forward to things becoming more official and more in place as we head into next week. But yeah, good week overall. Looking forward to the weekend. So. But yeah, so we are gonna break this down. So as always, we have to do the lovely network plugs and network paperwork. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 6 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance network on Twitter at GWayPod Network, so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. We've got our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows, including our previous show, We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga rewatch, where Brent and I rewatched the entire Infinity Saga in chronological order, including Black Widow, giving our thoughts and full reviews on each one of those. And last year we wrapped up our newest show, Tales from the House of X, where Brent and I watched our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men. So that is out there. And we also have a lot of lovely back content from DC Alliance doing their DC films through the years. And we've got Joe doing his multiverse minutes Disney dives. Where on the 1st and 15th of every month, he will be dropping a new episode of looking at the Disney from the Disney animated catalog in chronological order. So the next episode should be dropping on Saturday. So I'll be interested to see and hear about that. So we want to thank our patrons. We cannot do this without your support. But if you can't join us on Patreon, but if you do, go to www.patreon.com/GUA Network so you can get all that great content. We want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. But if you can't join us on Patreon, we would totally understand. We want to if you can take 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast, we'd greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. Earn rewards to get discounts and hopefully earn up to getting you a free book. Got a new final order, new pre-order catalog has dropped. We've got one of a interesting newest omnibus coming from Marvel, X-Men Blue and Gold Mutant Genesis. This encompasses the beginning of the adjectiveless X-Men era with Lee and Claremont. It encompasses, for the first time in oversized format, Bishop's Crossing, and includes Executioner Song, all in one glorious omnibus. We got some great epic collections, modern epics at that point, and some masterworks. We've got Spider-Man Gang War Omnibus coming in first time into print. Here's an interesting one: The Nam. For the first time ever in omnibus format, the Marvel series The Nam, chronicling the Vietnam War from 1966 to 1969, will be the first time ever that is coming to format. And Ghostwriter Danny Ketch wrapping up that illustrious run with a volume 2. Got Namor omnibus. So again, lots of great stuff. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. Use it a limited amount of times. We want to thank Organic Price Books for being our official sponsor. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat. I saw, looks like I got Jim Scroggs in the chat playing College Football 25 with Marvel Alliance as the soundtrack issue solid Thursday night. Yeah, I would agree to that. I never referred to Marvel Alliance as a soundtrack, but thank you, Jim. That's the first time ever that again, I like that.
Yeah,
soundtrack to the nerds' ears.
So, knowing his various fandoms, I'm going to go ahead and guess that he is playing as Georgia right now, and I hope that they're getting beat by Notre Dame. But I'm glad that we could be in the soundtrack of your night while Georgia gets that whooping that they so grossly deserve again.
Well, if you're an Ohio State fan, well, I know where you all stand on that one. So, anywho, let's talk about some of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So the first 2 episodes dropped. This is going to be your first time for Disney Plus series in the sense of, with What If they dropped an episode every single day for the adult. Dalton Taylor in the chat saying, go Clemson, all right. Jim Scroggs saying, Tennessee, actually, I hate UGA. And Vivid Jack trying to bring it back, saying he's going to cut out a bit early. I've got Backer Kit Project finishing up, and I'm covering it on the channel. Oh, okay. We'll have to check that out, Viv Jack. So check out his channel. He's covering some good Kickstarter stuff. So we appreciate you all here, and Dalton and Jim can fight it out on college football at that point. So your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man episodes 1 and 2. So like I said, they're doing something interesting. It's not just dropping first 2 episodes because Disney's done that in the past, but they're going to be dropping for the first time like little clusters of episodes. So the next week's is going to be 3 episodes, and they're kind of be altering back and forth. So, obviously it's an interesting strategy, and I think for animation it's a good strategy, particularly now that we see the show is kind of at the 20 to 25 minute mark for it. So if that remains consistent, yeah, it's a little. It fits for what animation typically is, but it kind of, if they're doing it to what I hope they're doing it, is doing kind of story arcs. So I'm hoping that the 3 episodes are kind of an arc they want to tell to make sure that people get it and get a beginning, middle, and end to something, and hopefully continue to hook them for next week. So first, what do you think about that release strategy?
I think that with this being a new and inventive project and the fact that it's not piggybacking off of anything MCU, I think that may be a great strategy for them to release the mini arcs of it so that you can consume all of the story at once, because it's really hard, especially with something like this. It's a different art style, different storytelling style, and everything else. If you just see one episode, and especially the way that episode 1 ended, yes, it had a nice little cliffhanger, but the fact that it went straight into episode 2 and the way that it ended made you look ahead to their next one. They're doing a 2-3-3-2 model on their week. So this week was 2, next week's 3, following week's 3. Final week on February 19th is the final 2. So I think that the short mini arcs in there will just have you wanting to watch them all. You're muted.
Thank you. So I think it's an interesting strategy for them to do. I think it should pay off for them in the sense of kind of keeping interest, as long as people are interested in this. So, non-spoiler thoughts. What do you feel about your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man?
Non-spoiler thoughts is I'm not gung-ho, rah, this is my new favorite thing, but I am excited to see where it goes. I was skeptical how they would do the art style and some of the things that were talked about having throughout the entire episodes, and I feel like in that sense they made it work. The animation fits. There's some nitpicky things about it, but overall, the style that they went with, the decisions that they've made with the animation, I think works for this show.
Yeah, I did enjoy the comic book paneling. We saw a lot in the trailer, and so I think one of the things a lot of us were saying is like, I hope they use that appropriately. I hope it gets too gimmicky because that could get annoying really fast. And for the most part, I thought the comic paneling when it was used for action sequences for kind of split screen um, split screen kind of like moments, it worked. I don't think it
Yeah,
was gimmicky. I thought it was used appropriately. The animation style, I haven't seen a property like I've watched use it recently, so it's not bad. It's just something I'm getting used to a little bit. So it works for what the kind of style appeal, like homaging the 1950s, 1960s look of Steve Ditko, and definitely Peter Parker's look right now in the show is a perfect kind of look at what Ditko did in the first number of years um, for the character at that point. I'm with you. It is definitely not a terrible show. However, I know a lot of the reviewers, people that are praising it so much, have seen all the episodes. So they're praising it as very surprising, very good. Right now, I'm with you. It's just okay. And I'm curious to see more and where we're going with this, especially these two episodes. Just for comic book fans like us, it didn't break any new grounds outside of maybe some interesting changes of characters, some interesting kind of story beats it puts in there, but nothing on the lines of like. Again, I'm not. You're comparing apples and oranges to this. An X-Men '97, where it even started off with our first episode. Yeah, that hit on a banger note, you
yeah,
know. But again, that's a different type of show. It's an unfair comparison, but I'll just use it in the sense of like that hit the ground hard and running hard. So, again, this is a show not necessarily X-Men '97 was a show for the fans of that show. This is not necessarily that type of show, and to not bring something back. So I always like the idea, like what can they bring new to the mythos of Spider-Man? Not just changes. How do you do the tip of the hats, and how do you honor the legacy by bringing something different and new to the table? And so
yeah,
they're setting the stage. But right now, I'm with you. It's just okay, and you know what? That's okay right now. But
yeah.
we're just gonna have to see, and we will both preserve judgment as we kind of go through this and see does it elevate our things by the end, or does it be like you know do we wish we got a Spider-Man '98 or a spectacular Spider-Man revival? We'll just have to see. Because right
Yeah.
now, according to Brad Winnebaum, what did he reveal, David?
Hold on just a second. So, and
So,
I literally just had that tab open in all my 5,000 tabs.
well, he revealed it's not only been greenlit for a second season. How many seasons has it been greenlit
So,
for?
so, so, so far we've got three. I was looking for his
Oh, the
exact,
exact quote. Gotcha.
yes, talking point that I had up, but yeah, so far we have three. So any chances that you thought that this was going to be a one and done, and in a couple of months we would get Spider-Man '98 are it's not going to be happening anytime soon. We're going to be riding with this for a while. So
Mhm.
again, that's why I do hope it's successful. I do hope that they're able to stick the landing because if you've already greenlit that far out in advance, I'm hoping that you've got some plans.
Yeah. So we'll just have to wait and see again. They don't like having competing projects with the same character. You know,
Yeah.
like it or hate it. So, all right. So we're gonna take our first ad break before we get into spoiler thoughts, breaking down each one of these episodes. So, listeners, as you know, these ads keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. They can be a bit loud, so give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right. So, David, the first episode is entitled Amazing Fantasy. So, the obvious reason for that title,
Amazing
the
Fantasy 15.
Amazing Fantasy 15, but we'll have to see. So, the location card is identical to the ones used in Captain America Civil War, We do see what is very clearly what we refer to as Avengers Tower, soon to be Thunderbolts Tower. But not sure if it's their HQ, but we do see a very big building with the same kind of silhouette in it. So we'll just have to see. But we do know from previous teasers and trailers that have been released that the Avengers do exist in this universe. We just have not seen them yet in the show proper. Peter's waking up with a comic stuck to his head, Amazing Adult Fantasy number 14, and people were like, "Wait a minute! I thought it's like the comic when Spider-Man appeared was Amazing Fantasy." It was. The original comic series was Amazing Adult Fantasy, and this was number 14, and it was retitled to Amazing Fantasy for the first appearance of Spider-Man. The reason they called it Amazing Adult Fantasy, it was a marketing ploy by Stan Lee to get more people to read comics, putting them as more sophisticated. It had nothing to do with any lewd or lascivious behavior in it. And the reason we're seeing number 14 is because we're about to see the origin of Spider-Man, which is what happened in number 15. So there's a reason behind their madness. So what did you think about kind of our introduction to this Peter?
I thought it was a good introduction. You start in seeing that, all right, we've got the old school art style and old school feel to it, but the story itself isn't old school. Like the way he pops out, him talking to he's living with Aunt May. This appears recently within the loss of Uncle Ben. Aunt May is a lot younger, a lot more towards her Tom Holland counterpart when it comes to the aging of Aunt May. So you've got a lot of room to work with that story. Speaking of which, there are a couple of times that this show does do some very close shot for shot recreations of things from the Tom Holland series. So, there's that
definitely
bit.
Get to those. It's very very tongue in cheek if you know kind of moments.
Yeah. So, but I like this introduction. I like how Peter just comes across, and I do also like the fact that he's from the opening, you could tell that he's a smart yet spastic kid, and he fits the mold of Peter Parker.
Yeah. The style is modeled after Steve Ditko's drawings of Peter, including the round glasses with the yellow sweater and blue jacket, which was very frequently depicted in the early years of Amazing Spider-Man. The apartment is modeled after the MCU apartment from Homecoming, very clearly seen it many times. He is trying to make it to his first day at Midtown High, which Midtown High has been very frequently used, not only in the comics, but also in pretty much many various movie properties of Spider-Man as well. After he misses the train, what did you think about that little tongue-in-cheek kind of, you think he's going to break out the suit, but at this point we don't know where he is necessarily in his origin story, and does he pull out that suit at this point?
No, he ends up just having to hitch a ride with Aunt May, but it was funny when he's running after it and he's like, don't leave yet, don't leave yet, I'm almost there. You get that feel like, all right, once he missed it, all right, he's just gonna run back into an alley and bust out some web swinging and away we go. But nope, still not there yet. He's still just making his way and has got to take a ride from Aunt May, who's supposed to be on her way to work.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's just, how's he going to get there at that point? And if he's not web slinging, he's going to be something that we're gonna have to get there at that point. Dalton saying one of our mics is way louder than the other, so may have to check that at that point. If Dalton, you hear which one of us is speaking, if it's me or David, just let us know. So, when Aunt May picks him up, we get some little ideas of who's in this universe. We get an Iron Man hood ornament. Excuse me, not a hood ornament, but on the mirror ornament at that point. So it says David is a little loud. So thank you. And so we know Iron Man exists in this universe. And so with that, we also, we also know kind of where they're at in the universe as well, in the sense of where Peter and Aunt May are at, where he makes reference to hoping that his attending to Midtown High will be the first time something good happens to distract them from everything else going on. And a little, if you're paying attention to Aunt May's ring, it kind of shimmers at that moment. So we understand that Uncle Ben has already passed away. We don't know necessarily how he's passed away, but we know he is no longer with us. So there is, a little change in canon at that point. However, the canon event of Uncle Ben passing away is still there, as according to Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, so they're keeping with that form for right now, which is good. I mean, you don't make the huge change. The Uncle Ben thing is pretty much known, so I'm glad they didn't do any rehashing of Uncle Ben's death. Just straight into, we're establishing something has happened within the family. He's no longer with us, and we're moving on.
Yeah. And so we get Peter walking around. He meets Nico Minoru, who is actually in the comics part of the Runaways team. She is a magic user that has a magic staff absorbed into her. Her parents are actually super villains, and she is a very big time one of the early uses of LGBTQ characters in the Marvel universe at that point. Very powerful mutant and very powerful, hero, and magic user that if you have played, and I have not, Midnight Suns, she was a big character in Midnight Suns, and that's how a lot of people was her first introduction to many people in the current GA audience. But I can highly recommend Brian K. Vaughan of Runaways, which she was introduced to. Don't know if necessarily we're going to see her get her magic powers, but it's still, we're 2 episodes in. And so we see a green portal suddenly open up. And who comes out of that green portal?
So, coming out of the green portal, we have a Venom symbiote, and we also have our good friend Doctor Strange. But he's rocking the old school costume in this.
Yes, the most very comic accurate look. He has the mustache and the gloves on his hands. And we do get the theme from the illustrious, the maestro himself, Michael Giacchino, with the Doctor Strange theme. He did, some people may want to call me on it. Wait a minute, he had gloves in Thor Ragnarok. Well, the only reason he actually did have the gloves in that scene for Thor Ragnarok was because the makeup team did not have time to do makeup on his hands for a 1-day shoot. So that is why that is the only time you've seen him with the gloves. And that was the reason.
Yep. And so Doctor Strange makes his appearance, and you could tell Peter's kind of hype, only to go say that he doesn't recognize who Doctor Strange is. That moment kind of got me. He has this look like, yeah, oh, I have no idea who you are.
Yeah, so we don't know if a Stephen Strange exists in this universe or if he is not, because Doctor Strange will make a comment a little bit later on it, just a little bit. He uses the Crimson Band of Sidarok to hold back the symbiotic creature, who I think, I gotta love the mandibles in the mouth, but he's kind of rocking what looks like a poof collar in the back. Some people were saying, oh, maybe it's like it's Craven at that point. So I don't know. We know it's a symbiotic creature because it's the end credits. It says symbiotic alien creature. It doesn't go anything more than that. But Doctor Strange does say we're not supposed to be here. So he recognizes that he is outside of his time and element as well. We get a lot of the comic book paneling in this sequence. And when the symbiotic creature, I'm about to say symbiote, oh gosh, goodness gracious, the symbiote creature throws the car, Strange transforms into an astral form, but usually his astral projection is not a phasing ability. It's just simply projecting himself out. So that's an interesting change in change in powers. And you gotta love Peter. Peter throwing something at the creature and calls him ugly, and to save Nico, and that Nico's not his type, and channeling that Steve Rogers from the first Avengers, saying anyone can be a hero even without powers.
Yeah. Peter throwing the brick at the symbiote and then mouthing off in typical like Spider-Man fashion that bold I'm gonna get my words in as I do this. I mean, to me, that was showing that Peter is the hero at heart. Again, it's not just the powers; it's him. It's inherently who he is. So he throws that brick, and he's like, "Hey, ugly, I don't think she's interested in you, buddy," and gets his attention. I'm just like, again, at this point, we don't know
Hmm.
the status of Peter as a whole. We don't know if he has powers yet. This becomes a couple of scenes later where we figure out where he is in his journey. But at this point, we don't know. So him just standing up to the symbiote and mouthing off to him, it was a cool little Peter moment.
Yeah. So when Strange does defeat the creature, there's been a spider kind of jumping down from the portal, and it's a different looking spider. It's more looking like the symbiote at that point. And as the portal closes, it cuts the web, and the spider falls onto Peter, and it eventually bites Peter, and he passes out while talking to Nico. But here's the change: the spider is still alive and crawls onto another backpack. Now I know I was thinking this, and our brothers over at Geekverse kind of called it too. We don't see who picked up that backpack, and they made the same calls as that because in the comic series, the spider who bit Peter Parker was revealed in the event Original Sin that the spider bit someone else, and that someone else was Cindy Moon, who later becomes the character Silk in the comics. So, are we going to get a revelation by the end of this first season, David? Where did that spider go, and did that spider bite someone else?
Yeah, I was very much interested in this. You can't tell who picks up the book bag. All you see is a pant leg and a shoe, and it's not anything that can give away whether it's male or female. So I thought the same thing. Um, I wasn't a fan of the other storyline, but that Silk was one of the good things that did come out of it.
Yeah, it definitely was. So then we get into the for our first intro montage. For the show, it is a remix of the 1960s theme with a little modern day hip hop flair. We see Spider crawling through his DNA helix, which is a callback to the Raimi movies. The DNA strands eventually change into the Spider Man symbols. We see them use Bandai dots, which is like the old style comics. We see the shadowy figure of Spider Man that was used in Amazing Fantasy 15 with the Spider Man silhouette. Peter crawling up a wall, very much like Tobey Maguire did in the Raimi movies. His webbing mask from Amazing Fantasy 15 when he fought Crusher Hogan, who will also make an appearance later on in these episodes. Now, then we get a montage of Spider-Man logos and Easter egg logos too. First up, we see on the edge of the screen with yellow goggles is Ditko's first drawing of Spider-Man. It's blink and you miss it. It's very much in the left-hand corner. That is a callback to what Ditko wanted to have Spider-Man look like in the first place. We get the stealth suit from Big Time. We get the Hornet and Prodigy costumes from the Slingers group. We get the Dusk suit. We get the Homecoming suit. And we get our boy, Ben Riley. Got it.
Yeah, I know Brent was smiling in that moment
Oh,
because
I got my two Ben Riley Funkos back there. I got the one from Across the Spider Verse and the newest one with the official kind of hoodie on them at that point. So I was like, yeah, there's my boy. The poses actually were all used in the comics for years. So the poses that they're making are comic accurate, what they've used. And we do see the spider sense going off like it does in the comics and thwipping. I call it the Kirby crackle, the thwipping. And we see at the end homaging Amazing Fantasy number 15 with him carrying, in this case, Harry Osborn, which we have
yeah.
not yet been introduced, but very well shortly too. So, what did you think about that intro overall?
I like the intro. I thought it mixed the old school with the new school. It gave you the sense that, hey, we're going to be making some homages, but this is our own and this is updated
Hmm.
for the time. So I thought that that was cool. And yeah, ending with the Spider-Man swinging while holding Harry underneath his arm in the callback, the 15 cent up in the corner with Spider-Man on there. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, so then we get to basically almost feels like a repeat of how the episode opens, except time
Yep.
it's several months later. He's got his spider powers. He's also late. He's also still trying to get used to his thwipping around and web slinging because it kind of messes up as he's going by the train. And but even before he goes into web slinging, we do see his spider sense has not fully developed because he does get hit by the taxi.
Yeah, he does not see that coming, and he's like, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be on time. I'm gonna be on time." Then, bam.
Bam. Then he sees who we know as Harry Osborn getting assaulted, and they're live streaming it because kids are jerks, and everyone's got to get them follows at that point.
Okay.
Gotta love the commenters when Spider-Man does show up to save the day. They calls him, "Is that the newest Avenger? He's trash." We get
Yeah.
another one saying, "Kick his A word, Seabass." At that point, calling back to Dumb and Dumber because commenters. He takes him down in very epic fashion. A lot of the comic book paneling goes on in this sequence, including he murders someone with the brick. I'm convinced of it. That dude is dead.
Yeah, there's no way that that man, if he is still alive, does not have permanent brain damage and is unable to talk,
Yeah,
because what he did, because not only does he kick the brick out of his hand, so it's got that force, and then
yep,
you yank it back with even more force, like that poor kid is gone.
yeah, exactly. That's why I enjoy those TikToks where you see the guy acting either in what was it what is it the Spider-Man games and then the Batman Arkham games where they try to do it and then it stops and says yeah, he didn't make it quite there.
Yeah. So the fight itself was pretty epic. Again, the good use of the paneling and him taking everyone down using his webs, and he has his like CO2 NOS tank for dispersing his webs. That's on there. Looks very rudimentary, but also speaks to Peter and his scientific self. Like, if you're really doing this homemade, then this is really him doing it homemade. I know in the movies they've been like, oh, I made the web cartridges myself. This to me feels more like, well, I'm just getting into the Spider Man thing. This is the best I can do within a couple of months.
Yeah. And yeah, I like it that Harry tries to pay him.
Venmo.
Yeah, and he's like, "No, I'm good at this point."
And we
And
get him mentioning that he's the friendly neighborhood Spider Man.
yep, and we actually see the guy from Homecoming and Shang-Chi. That in Homecoming, he's
Yes.
at the hot dog cart. He leaps over him, but he's asking him to do the flip, and so he's making yet another appearance at that point. If you're a fan of the show Severance, he's apparently the one of the actors in that show. I'm sorry, I do not know his name. I just know him as the hot dog guy.
I literally have it written in my notes. I go, is that the guy in the corner the same guy from the Shang-Chi bus?
Yep.
Question mark. Like,
No, it is.
that's-
It is. He gets to class late, and his teacher is telling him the truth that Paul, and this is me as the history teacher saying, Paul Revere did not say the British are coming because he was arrested very quickly. It was Israel Bissell reminding us that history does not always accurately record who our heroes are. Looking at you, Spider-Man. The cop car does say PDNY like it does in the Spider-Verse movies. We meet Peter's crush, Pearl, who is actually an actual character in Marvel Comics. She is Marvel's first Filipino superhero, codenamed Wave, who in the comics, like in the show, is a competitive swimmer and kind of has Aquaman-like powers. Uh, she is dating Lonnie Lincoln, who is the QB, and in the comics, do you know who Lonnie Lincoln turns into?
Tombstone.
Yep. In the comics, he is exposed to gas and is given superhuman durability. In science class, Lonnie asks to be Peter's lab partner, and Peter thinks he's just a dumb jock. And Lonnie kind of surprises him in proving that he is smart. And he wants a fallback in case his football career doesn't work out. And he and Peter strike up a very fast friendship, opposed to, what we're used to the comics is Peter constantly being made fun of. And instead of the jock making fun of him and abusing him, we get the idea that Lonnie wants to befriend him. And I'll say this, like, especially you see it in the next episode, like Peter is, because of his friendship with Lonnie, becomes very popular more popular than you would think.
Yeah, it's a new side of Peter. Peter being popular, Peter being the good luck charm for
Hmm.
Lonnie.
And as you know, Lonnie goes home. You know, he says goodbye to Pearl, but we do see some kind of modern day things that, unfortunate as it is, a lot of our minority persons of color have to deal with on a daily basis. And you know, you see the woman on the train with I guess either daughter or granddaughter. Avoid sitting next to him. He's walking through rougher and rougher areas. When he gets closer to home, we see basically, you know, he's not stopped, but we're just going to call it what it is. He's being profiled
Yeah.
um, by the cops that are watching him because he's not doing anything at that point. And when he goes home to a very loving family. I'm wondering if something happens because they're not at Midtown. We forgot to mention that they're not at Midtown High because that got basically destroyed by Doctor Strange and the symbiote creature. They temporarily going to another school for a year, but I'm wondering if something happens in this show that's going to turn Lonnie to a life of crime, and then are we going to get him turning into Tombstone? Because right now I really like Lonnie.
Now, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Did they state where this new school is or where Lonnie is from? Because there is a moment, and I don't know if you noticed, and I pointed it out to Brent because it struck me the first time. When Lonnie starts his walk home,
Hmm.
there are hints of the Miles Morales PS5 theme
Okay.
playing behind him.
Um, no, I didn't catch necessarily that. I know he had a very long, you know, he had a subway ride and then seemed like he was walking for a while. So he's definitely
Yeah.
not going to, as in my mind, a school that is close by because obviously he was going to Midtown High. He obviously has a scholarship. He's getting there. That's not opposed to, you know, when you're going to a charter school or anything like that. Like you have to find your
Yeah.
own way there. So if all these kids were temporarily moved to a different school, well, they were given the option. So obviously he wants to keep whatever
Yeah.
way he has. So I don't know. They haven't
So
necessarily called out where he is.
I did wonder if, concerning he was taking the train, concerning he's going back to his own neighborhood, like I said, he had to let Pearl know when he made it back safe, so she knew that he was traveling for a while. If maybe he lived in Brooklyn, and that's the reason for the Miles Morales reference.
Yeah. It could be very much. It's a good pull. I did not even think about that. So hopefully we maybe get a more confirmation of where he specifically is when he goes home. So we do see later on after that, we see Spider-Man catch a thief, but being Spider-Man wants to give people second chances, and the thief is apologizing, gives the money back, just saying like, I'm finally down on my luck, lost my job, things like that. And I'm with our Geekiverse brethren. Like I caught that whole thing about all the help wanted signs and thought like someone was like the guy was going to offer a job after hearing the stop story. That happened. Nothing. I was like, what was the point of that? Like it seems such a throwaway thing to really because they did focus on that, and I kind of thought when I saw this go, oh, he's going to forgive her, he's going to offer a job to help her out. Nothing. Nothing. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, she you know, lucky not to go to jail or anything like that, but it seemed kind of like what was that necessary? Could have just been an open window and not like focus on that. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's weird because even says to the shop owner, he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry, she made a bad decision," and the shop owner says, "Yeah, I don't know for sure." Like,
Yeah.
it just you let her go, but you're still questioning everything about it. I guess it was to show Peter's heart and how he cares for the people and the neighborhood, and he's not here to just be a reckless teen beating up people. Like he has some discernment here, but it also felt kind of throwaway. Yeah, you have all the help wanted signs, and even the shoplifters like, or the shop owners like, yeah, I don't know if she really was a kind person, but whatever, you saved me
Yeah.
some money, so cool.
Yep, and take a free pizza, which he randomly takes as someone's walking out with it. So I'm assuming that's a delivery guy, and he's still got to make another pizza, which is technically he has to
Yeah,
make two more pizzas because they're not just going to wait around and eat cold pizza, or he just took it from a customer who just legitimately bought pizza and just accepting it. I was like, what are we doing here?
yeah, because it seems like the delivery guy still mounts the other two pizzas to his bike.
I know
So
it's
is he about to deliver this to someone? Someone's going to be like, "Hey, I ordered three," or what's going on here?
sorry,
Or is he?
the owner gave it to Spider Man.
Yeah, or is he an employee that gets to take home pizza at the end of the night? So he's like, "Oh, this kid won't miss it. I let him take home pizza every night anyway."
Dad, you paid me in pizza. Now you shorted me my cash because of Spider-Man. Spider-Man turned another person into a villain. He's Tony Stark all over again.
Just creating his own villains.
Yep, creating his own villain. Thanks, Pizza Boy. It's pizza time. Not for you, Spider-Man. But yeah, he does get a free pizza, and in the back alley, as he's eating the pizza and changing, he finds a DVD player that he takes a selfie in front of a nice car that's in front of his aunt's apartment complex. And as he goes into the apartment, we see basically a mirror sequence from Homecoming as he's walking through, chatting at that point. But instead of Tony Stark being the guest in the room, who is in the room?
We have Norman Osborn in the room. Stands up. He has on the green suit. He's rocking it. So,
Yeah, voiced by the great Coleman Domingo with his smooth, smooth voice.
who I was very excited. I am very excited for him to be in this. I love even from his introduction the way that his voice sounded and everything like that. So I'm like, yes, he's going to be perfect for this role. Doesn't
Uh,
get too many speaking parts within the first two episodes, but just the feel that he puts into that, the way that his voice is, and the gravity behind his voice, I'm ready for more of them.
Yep, and so that's how the first episode ends. And so we're gonna take our next ad break before the we head into episode 2, the Parker Luck. So, as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on; they could be a bit loud. So give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we're back. So episode 2, the Parker Luck. So we at the end of these credits, we do see a new kind of final title sequence, title card with Peter pulling down the mask with Oscorp looming in the background. So I'm wondering if this is going to be the gimmick of the show of changing the last scene at the end. Norman seems to be recruiting Peter for his intelligence, and apparently he's done his research on him. But to me, this seems way too convenient, and especially with the revelation at the end. Yes, it's a nice cover. I think he already knows he's Spider-Man.
Yeah, I felt the same way. Like the yes, Peter is intelligent, but there's nothing to show. I mean, he was talking about how great it is that he got accepted into Midtown High and things like that. There was no big thing that made you feel like he was going to be the breakout star of Midtown High or anything like that. For someone like Norman Osborn to come and show up at your house, that'd be just, again, like some random kid and Elon Musk shows up. That is the equivalent here.
Why'd you have to go use that name?
Well, I mean,
uh,
evil is evil.
I didn't say that. I was like, come on, man, we gotta use someone else. Well, wait a minute. Aren't basically most tech billionaires right now the scum of the earth these days? One way, shape, or form. So use them all the tech billionaires. Let's just go with it. Why do we gotta utter his name even on this show? Anyways,
Well, Bezos is rocking the Lex Luthor, so I mean,
God.
he's already he's already got
Yeah.
his comic book equivalent.
That's true. So, but he does offer Peter a paid internship and wants him to start the next day. And he tells him to let the front desk people know that he wants to personally see him when he arrives. So Peter is very excited, and as I said, he's seeming more popular as Lonnie wants him to kind of rub the trophy for luck as it's game day for him. And Nico tells him, Osborn, you better watch out. Osborn's got some skeleton in his closet. And I think later on doesn't she make a slam against Roxxon Corporation as well, which is
Yeah.
the Marvel Universe's idea of Exxon.
So that they're your crime pollutant company there. So just a little bit of play on the alphabet, but yes, she makes a comment about hopefully not seeing him a part of them next.
Yep. And so they go and watch Lonnie play football. He can watch it just for a little bit because he doesn't want to be late to his first job at that point. I mean, why not? You got to make that good first impression, right? Because it's kind of like Barry Allen with always being late. But the football coach is none other than a homage to a very, very infamous comic. It is Coach Phil Grayfield is Lonnie's football coach. Phil Grayfield is actually his comic alter ego is NFL Super Pro, which was a comic, short-lived comic, produced by Marvel in conjunction with the NFL, written by Fabian Nicieza. And Fabian Nicieza says, you may hate that comic. People may dog on that comic. That comic had paid him a lot of money. That was his kind of one of his early big breaks. So he says, I will always, always thank NFL Super Pro for what it did for him financially. So I like that little tip of the hat. As that, but he does leave early to avoid being late. When he does arrive at Oscorp, the front desk clerk doesn't believe him that Norman Osborn wants to see him. His name is Jay Gallo, which is a nod to Jonathan Gallo, aka Ricochet.
Ricochet.
Yep. So that was another alter ego that Peter created when Spider-Man was wanted for murder in order to keep being a superhero. But interesting enough, and then that character Ricochet and the costume was given to another group of people who became known as the Slingers. But even got Jay Gallo, even the guard has even got the pop collar like Ricochet. So they were giving us fans who know they know those little Leo pointing at the screen moments. So Peter getting denied again, the Parker
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah, the bad picture take, everything else. He walks in there expecting to be, a big dog because Norman showed up on his door and just to be told, yeah, nope, you're an intern. Go up for report to lab on floor 17, and here's your ugly photo. Sorry, you should have been 15 minutes early for all this. You're
Yeah,
not early,
yeah.
you're late.
Yep, exactly. But when he does go up there, it looks like there are other like intern scientists there. We get Asha from Wakanda. In the comics, she's a gifted kid recruited by the Wakandan School of Alternative Studies, which is a special school for kids that have powers. She can manipulate light and allowing her to turn invisible. We meet Jean Fuco, who is in the comics known as Finesse, and she's super intelligent and, like Taskmaster, can actually replicate any move just by seeing it once. And in the comics, Norman Osborn actually experimented. She was one of the individuals that was experimented on in order to activate their powers at that point. And she actually stuck by Norman Osborn, even despite that what happened. And then we meet another famous comic book reference, Amadeus Cho. Who is Amadeus Cho, David?
So Amadeus Cho, and we also got references to him in the MCU, well, his family,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yep.
Amadeus Cho becomes a version of the Hulk.
Yes. Yeah, the totally awesome Hulk, where in totally awesome Hulk was
With great hair.
yeah, with great hair at that point. He found a way to, he eventually turned into the Hulk, but maintained not only just his super strength, but his entire intelligence and his ability to, basically just imagine Professor Hulk, but even cooler, much
Yep.
cooler.
Yeah, and he is voiced by one of my favorite current voice actors, Alex Lee from Solo Leveling and from a bunch of other stuff, who does a great the cocky confident. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to see more of Amadeus Cho because again, the voice actor for him who does a lot of animes pulls off that cocky confident very well.
Do you think we're going to see Totally Awesome Hulk?
I hope so. I can't say with 100% certainty, but I think that we will. If we don't see it, we will see some type of lab accident that will lead to eventual, maybe in the next season or so.
Yep, and yes, Amadeus Cho mother was the scientist who we saw in Age of Ultron that was helping out and help give birth to Vision. Then we see the one leading the group is Dr. Whitman in the comics. Dr. Whitman becomes the Wizard who is a supervillain who creates gadgets that mimics superpowers. Peter ends up being paired with Carla Connors, a gender swapped version in this universe of Kurt Connors, also missing an arm as well. But it's interesting to note that instead, in the comics, Kurt Connors is a geneticist at this point, but in this show, she specializes in energy research.
Yeah.
So if we do get her becoming the lizard, her use of in using genetics to get that to happen is going to be personal time and more personal and done on her own time versus what she's doing in the lab itself. So
Yeah.
interesting to kind of switch with that.
I did like the line when is talking about being the head of energy research, and Peter says, "Oh, like the Stark reactor?" She said, "Yes, but that's proprietary." Like,
Yep. We're going to do it, but better. We see them using comic panel with split screens again. Nico calls him and says they've been invited to a party to celebrate the football win. Peter says he's going to be there, but a little late, but he'll be there. But we know and we see he doesn't make it. And Nico, I'd say, was, disappointed, but kind of cool. But this is obviously not going to be the last time that Peter disappoints his friends. Because again, it's the Parker luck.
yeah, it's not uncommon for Peter to be the one to not make the party or not make the event. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm on my way and never make it.
Yep, exactly. So moving on, that we see the interns watching TV. They see Crusher Hogan fight going on there, but they flip channels and they see a fire happening in a building, and Peter unsmoothly leaves and says he has to do something and changes in the stairwell into Spider-Man. And when he gets there, we see the person causing the fire is a Z-list metahuman by the name of Butane, which is basically, glorified Firefly.
Yeah.
And realizing that when he calls out, like, "Oh, we're gonna get to 51st Street," he's or
Wrong
52nd
building.
Street, said, "No, this is 51st Street," saying, "Oh," and it happens to be conveniently still an abandoned building.
Yeah. I like how he looks when he says, this is the wrong building, we're on 51st Street. He stops and looks out the window to confirm. And it's like, oh, well, this is the dump anyway.
Yeah. And so Peter takes him down in pretty quick order. When he stops Butane, he goes back to Oscorp, and Jay Gallo's security guard tells him that Norman wants to see him immediately. They think he's about to get fired. And as he comes up, we see a photo of Norman with Captain America in a very armored up suit, kind of homaging some like 90s versions of Captain America. And when he meets with Norman, Norman reveals that he knows he's Spider-Man because the security footage caught him. Amazingly, there's security cameras in the stairwell. Come on, rookie move there, Peter. Rookie move.
$1 billion corporation in a $1 billion building, and you honestly think they would not have cameras in the stairwell?
Come on, man. You got to be smarter than that. I don't care if you've only been a superhero for like a couple of months. Come on.
Yeah. So, and it was the way that Norman was looking out the window the entire time. Peter's apologizing. He's thinking he's getting called in because he messed up today. He wasn't where he's supposed to be. He dipped out for a minute and maybe got caught with all that and everything else. And Norman is just letting him talk and letting him talk and letting him talk because he knows, yeah, I'm not firing you. I don't care about you being late. We got bigger fish to fry here.
Yeah, but again, I'm sticking with the idea that he knew he was Spider-Man all along and just needed to find a convenient way to say that yeah, my bad, he's not going to be not going to just needed to find something to say, like, hey, I caught you red-handed, so you can't think like I already knew you were Spider-Man. But I'm pretty convinced that we're going to get the revelation that he always knew.
Yeah.
So But yeah, so that wraps up like the first two episodes. So all in all, we let him know his thoughts. We're, both if you want to, if we want to think about both episodes at that point, where do you rank each episode on a scale from 1 to 10?
Right now, I would put episode one maybe at a six, and episode two at a 6.5, 7. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
they weren't bad, but just didn't blow me away. It's a good setup to the future. It had some bright spots. Like I said, in both episodes, there are scenes when I'm pretty sure Spider-Man gave somebody some long-lasting trauma, whether it be the brick in the first episode or in the second episode when
Hey,
he kicks the guy against the brick wall, and that's either a concussion or a broken back or something.
I hear you're missing
So,
this car. Wait a minute, what car? Oh God! that that
so
that never gets
there,
old.
but it didn't blow me away, but it does give me something to look forward to. So it didn't leave me just feeling like I don't need to continue. I see the trails of where they're going with this, and I want to continue with that, but it just didn't blow me away.
Yeah, I'm giving both episodes a 6 right now. Mark like maybe second episode just because now we've gone through the origin, we kind of see a little bit. But as I said earlier, nothing's breaking new ground with this. I appreciate what they're trying to do, but it's not enough for me to yet recommend the show. It's not, again, not a bad show. It's just not a show that right now says, oh my God, you have to watch, like I said, every week with X-Men 97.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see next week. We get 3 episodes next week, so maybe they'll kick it up a notch and start kind of turning both of us around. But yeah, so there really wasn't any news this week to write home about, and which is okay because again, we're coming close to almost an hour and just talking simply about your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So we are going to take our final ad break for the evening as we head into questions, Factor of Fictions, and the beginning of our new comic book club. So, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, David. I always put out the Spidey signal. We got a number of questions this week. Yeah, let's start with Mr. Rooney. What does Mr. Rooney ask?
Yeah, so Tim Rooney asks, if Doctor Strange was in Civil War movie, which side do you think he would have taken?
All right, Doctor Strange. That's an interesting question. I th- that that I can see him taking either side at this point, but um, man, where do you say in this one?
I say that initially he would have been Team Iron Man. He would have been the rule of law and order. He would have been the, yeah, we're doing this by the book sort of thing. I think as he got a little bit more information, and then, you know, as his character progressed, then maybe he would have switched sides as well. But I think initially he would have done the whole we're doing this by the book.
Yeah, I think that he'd reluctantly go to Team Iron Man at that point, because I don't think he's necessarily a fan or trusting totally of Tony, but of what he represents, he, what he was trying to do based on the information at the time. Yeah, it would be like, yeah, I'm with you, and almost like you said, could possibly switch to another side, but we'll have to see. So. But my co-host from the OPB Buyer's Guide, Jake from the Brave and the Boys YouTube channel, asks, "Are you more excited that your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is a separate universe, or do you wish it was an original version of the show that was supposed to be in the MC with Tom Holland?" So, what do you think? I think we
I
know where we stand on it, but would you have liked what it was originally titled, Spider-Man Freshman Year, tied to the Holland era of the MCU?
Originally, I was a little disappointed that it was no longer MC related, but now that we've had these first two episodes and we've had the little changes that they've made, I am okay with this, and I'm actually kind of more excited because it gives them more arena to do their own thing and not be tied to it. And I also feel that once you say something is an MCU property, it automatically puts a pedestal and a target on it. So it elevates it automatically. There's this feeling that it has to be at a certain level. And if it does not succeed with that, then it is an easy target. This being its own standalone project, if they want to make some changes, if they want to do something differently, then they're not tied to things that were set by not only the MCU, but for Sony and Tom Holland's Spider Man universe.
Yeah. Amara Daniels asks, early in the MCU, some people would say, why didn't this or that character show up to help out? Now we're at the point where crossovers happen regularly, like Valkyries in the Marvels, and now it's seen by some as a negative or distraction. Are we just spoiled at this point?
I would say that the majority of the audience is spoiled. I would say that it has reached a point where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I did used to wonder, like, when, even though I knew that it was slightly separate, the fact that they would reference the MCU and the Netflix Daredevil shows and things like that, there were times when me and my spouse at the time would talk and say, well, where are these people? Like, why isn't there any reference that they are not around or anything like that? And now we're getting to a point where we are having people appear and we're having that crossover. I think that that's, as long as it is done to fit the character and you're not just throwing in a random cameo, but it is a character who would actually show up to help with somebody or do something, I think it's fine. And it goes to continue to build the bigger universe and say, yes, we are all part of this one big cycle. And if you fall in love with the character, it also gives you a reason to go back and watch a project that they were in before.
Yeah, I forgot I did not even say my side of Jake's question at that point. Um, am I happy either way, one way or another? Right now, I really, I really wasn't that interested in freshman year with Tom Holland. Really, not at all. This show's just like I said, it's kind of okay. Um, I don't know. Either way, I don't think I'd be. I'm excited either way right now. So on either end for what the original concept of the show was versus what it is now. Mari, um, are we just spoiled? I think where we get the idea of to David's point, it having people come into other projects at that point. I don't like it when it's shoehorned in, and I felt Valkyrie in the Marvels felt shoehorned in. It just felt like a cameo for a cameo's sake versus something that makes sense in the sense of like oh yeah, this should happen at that point. I don't think we're spoiled. I just think again, if we're gonna have cameos and connections, make it worthwhile. So um someone interesting wrote in Brent wrote in. Brent wrote
Yes,
in.
Brent
I
twice. Brent wrote in
Yeah,
twice.
he has two questions. I think that's a little strange, but I'll allow it.
Yeah, so Brent starts off with what do you think the chances are that we see this new Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man and Beyond the Spider-Verse? It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
It's gonna happen.
it's in a similar art style that they can use at that point. So, um, and I think it's it'd be kind of nice. Be kind of nice, but again, that's if they want to play nice with each other. And so, what's Brent's last question?
Brent's last question is: do you think the theme song will be used for the opening of Born Again? So this is a Daredevil related question. Because Daredevil had an amazing theme song. So do you think the theme song will be used in the opening for Born Again? I assume the visuals will be different. What do you think about the audio?
I don't think it's going to be exactly the same. I think they're going to meld the old theme into the new theme. Kind of like, I'm not saying to, what we're seeing now with Your Friendly with Spider-Man taking the 60s thing and adding a new flair to it. I think they're going to use the main choral, not the main choral, but the main kind of chorus of
Yeah.
um, the Born Again, the Netflix show and meld it into something else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that piano melody that's in the background of it, I think that you will hear that running throughout whatever the new theme is. You'll have those hints that have that familiarity, but will definitely have its own.
Yeah, so and I think we got a hint of that with the teaser trailer too. So, speaking of, when do you think we're gonna get a another trailer for that? When do you think that's gonna drop? Like our story trailer.
I I was kind of going back and forth on that, and it I don't think that we're going to get a new trailer soon, but I do think, and this goes to my fact or fiction later, I think that we will get some new scenes very soon. Not necessarily a trailer, but we will get some new scenes released to the general public very soon.
Gotcha. All right, so thank you all for those questions, and let's head to fact or fiction from a couple weeks ago. So these were mine. Daredevil Born Again will lead into at least one spin-off project from the season. 94% said fact, 6% said fiction. Second one, Karen and or Foggy will not survive the first season of Daredevil Born Again. 56% said fact, 44% said fiction. And then last one, we will see the return of the Defenders. 82% said fact, 18% said fiction. All right, David, you are up this week. What do you got?
All right. So, first one, I will keep with it, Daredevil theme. There will be one major death in episode 1 of Daredevil Born Again.
Uh, hmm, I'm gonna go fiction on that. I could see
See,
it, but yeah, right now I'm not feeling it.
yeah. The way that they were talking and comparing themselves to the Penguin and talking about how they're going to be more grounded and a little bit heavier and more menacing, I think that they may want to come out with a strong statement. Now, I'm not thinking it's going to be, you know, Karen Foggy or somebody like that, but I do think it will be a major character that we are used to who is going to take one for the good of the show.
Okay, all right. What you got for number two?
All right. Number two. This is what I was speaking on earlier. We will get 5 superhero related trailers or teasers during the Super Bowl. That includes Disney Plus doing one of their coming soon with brand new footage.
Um,
We got Captain America coming out a week after the Super Bowl.
yep.
We've got Thunderbolts coming soon. We got Fantastic Four. You can throw another Superman trailer into there, and then I think a Disney Plus watch these shows with some new footage may be the last.
Hmm. Not a bad idea, but I'm also a fiction on that. Costs a lot of money for stuff like that. Not saying they don't have it, but they also want to see what they get their bang for the buck. And I think those two supposedly two movie trailers we get from the MCU is probably where they're gonna leave it at.
Gotcha.
What
And
about you? What do you think?
I think that the five that I named exactly, I name them is what we will get. I do think that this is a perfect time to drive those people to it. And I think that it will probably be their last of the trailers. I think that we will see your Thunderbolts, will see everything else. And then this will be a late game. Now that we've kind of fed you on that, this is what Marvel has coming up, a Disney Plus. Here is our slate of stuff. Come watch.
Hmm. And your last one.
Last one will be the man, the myth, the legend. Cyclops will be the first official new X-Men announced.
Well, just like him, wrong.
I think you're saying it wrong just because it's Cyclops.
Yes, Gambit. Because gonna make a name for myself. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at that point. Again, Cyclops is synonymous being the leader of the X-Men. Um, it wouldn't surprise me, but I'm just gonna be contrarian and just go 3 for 3 fiction. But no, I'll be real at that point. It wouldn't surprise me, and so I'll be a fact on this one. But you're right on this one. But Cyclops is always wrong.
I will down the hill of Cyclops is always right.
Even when he's a deadbeat father and a philandering affair man. Yep. Okay. Good thing to look
Hey,
up to. Good person to get our people to look up to there, David.
I'm just following the rule of government here.
All right. Well, I know you're a fact on that one. Not even gonna bother asking. So, so we'll post those on Sunday afternoon to let your voices be heard, and let us conclude our episode tonight by beginning our new era of Comic Book Club, where we are looking at the entirety of Charles Soule's run on Daredevil, 46 issued, but we are breaking them down in arcs. So sometimes we're going to go issue by issue. I think for tonight, since we're running a little bit long, David, what do you think, kind of just talking about these first 5 issues as a whole?
Yeah.
So what do you think about this? Yeah, how obviously I think you've read this before. How long ago did you do a reread of this?
So my initial read of this was probably about 5 or 6 years ago,
Hmm.
I want to say.
So it's been a bit.
And then, yeah. And so getting back into it, most of it, it was just kind of a refresher of some things, or especially in the first probably 7 or 8 issues of this entire run, it was more of a get back into the refresher. Oh yeah, I remember this, but I didn't remember that exact moment. So
Hmm.
that was cool to revisit some of those. And you know, the main villain of this arc, Ten Fingers, I every time he appeared, I was counting his fingers just to make sure that the artist didn't cheat us out of
Did the
any.
did the editor do their job?
Yes, same thing with the eights. I'm like, all right, the eights are on panel. Let me start counting those fingers.
Yeah, the villain I thought was kind of throwaway. If I'm going to be completely honest, I do like, again, coming back from, we mentioned it a couple weeks ago, where coming off of Wade's run, bringing Daredevil kind of back to formula, back to being a little more grittier, more to way we're used to seeing him. But also the interesting thing is the sidekick joining him, Blind Spot.
Yeah,
That was it. That was an interesting thing. What did you think of a blind spot? And talk to us about like what you thought of his powers.
I thought it was interesting. So he has his power suit that is works completely off of D batteries, and I don't know how he makes this happen because when my kids were little, they had a swing that we would use to help put them to sleep, and that thing ran off of D batteries. And every week I was buying new D batteries. So just for a swing for a toddler, if every week I'm replacing it, I can't imagine fighting crime in a power suit. How many D batteries this kid is going through?
Yeah, and I like that. Matt's working for the district attorney,
Yep.
and so he's no longer on his own, and we're kind of, we're going to, at this point we get some interesting revelations in here about like Matt's identity. You know,
Yeah.
so what's going on with Matt's identity?
So for a while, Matt's identity became public knowledge. Everyone knew he was Daredevil. And coming out of the last run, he had the Purple Man's kids erase everyone's memory. But some people still know. So Foggy still knows. And that's a point of contention between those two. Like, you left me with this memory, but you also left me with the pain and everything else that comes with it. But then others don't know. So he's struggling with his guilt. There's a moment where he's talking to Captain America here, and the entire time he's talking about him, you see the inner monologue saying, I should tell him, I should tell him, I should tell him, I should tell him.
Yeah, and so yeah, at this point the identity, but at this point we don't know what happened
Yeah.
to his identity because, like you said, Matt revealed it. Matt did it in court in in Wade's run. He did it in order to get everyone like knowing, and that's when like I think that's also another point of contention with Wade's run, like how much it made uh Matt Matt became kind of a D bag in,
Yeah.
in that idea, but he's in the district attorney's office. He's trying to reestablish himself, but yeah, I think initially I wasn't necessarily feeling Blind Spot as a character. I thought it was an interesting. I kind of wanted to give it, a little bit of time, but for Daredevil not necessarily having a quote unquote true sidekick really ever, it was a shift that I said, no, I don't know how to feel this. I like Charles Soule, but I applaud it for this, but we'll kind of see exactly how that goes. But the idea of the powers of the 10 fingers, stealing, I think it was like stolen, the powers right were stolen from the hand.
Yeah.
And, I liked it that he was taken down within these 5 issues and we kind of get Matt reestablished. And, I love the black suit with the kind of red outlining of Daredevil. Bringing him back to kind of a darker idea. It's like a mix of Shadowlands and his obviously red costume at this point. Um, it's an okay opening. It definitely is not like knock out of the park at that point. But again, bringing on Charles Soule always brings the character. I'm a huge Charles Soule fan, but when I first read this, I was like, okay, we're getting back to formula. I'm going to give it a little bit of time, and what I will say is this: it does kick it up a notch. As
Yeah.
we delve into it.
You go back to Matt dealing with and balancing his legal career with his Daredevil lifestyle. So there's moments when he is telling his paralegal, he's like, "Hey, I need you to cover for me," and she's like, "I can't cover for you," and he's like, "Well, guess I'm gonna just get in trouble for this one."
Oh,
You're
Matt.
yeah, and his boss in the prosecutor's office is like, "Hey, you may have done things differently as a defense attorney, but here our job is to get the guys to do this. Like, you need to keep your words, you need to close these cases, you have to have your witnesses make it to testify. Like, you're dropping the ball, and he's calling him out to the point where, he's moved down to the bottom of an elevator shaft. Like,
Yeah.
he is the lowest man on the totem pole.
Oh, Matt. But yeah. So we're any final thoughts before we kind of conclude this kind of first arc for Daredevil?
Like I said, it was a good opening to just reintroduce that street level Daredevil. I do like the fact that they didn't continue too much with the mystery of the sidekick. Like, he reveals himself within the
Hmm.
fourth issue, so we get a little bit more of who he is and why he is. And it was just a good introduction of, okay, we are back to street level. Blind Spot's reason for doing things is street level. Daredevil is back to being street level. This, you're getting back to the core of the character, and we're establishing it with this. It's no more the cockiness and things like that. Hey, here's the Hand. You all know who that is.
Hmm.
Here's street level Matt. Here's him dealing with the duality of being a lawyer and everything else. Boom.
Yeah. But yeah, so next week we will head into the second volume of Soul's Run. It'll be issues 6 through 9 and annual number 1. So we will delve into that next week. And but yeah, volume 246 in the books. We want to, as always, thank our official sponsor, GettingPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover collect edition needs. Use that code Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. David, tell people how they can follow you.
You can follow me on all socials at the Phantom. You can follow me here on the Geek First station. This weekend there is, if you're a wrestling fan, there is the Royal Rumble, which is personally my favorite of the wrestling pay-per-views. And then right afterwards, we will be live here on the channel doing a recap of that. Me, Mr. Travis Snells, and S Bubs. So you can join us for that. But yep, you can find me.
Mr. Snell is returning. All right.
Mr. Snell is returning. I think he's slowly making a comeback, at least in the wrestling world. He is. But yeah, we are going to do a post show wrap up and recap for you guys. Hopefully, it's not as long as our normal shows, because again, it's after a pay per view. So I know I'm going to be moving that day and be tired, but we're going to power it through. But other than that, yep, all socials at the Phantom.
And I hear there may be some big announcement coming out of Geek First from possibly Mr. Snell on Saturday. I hear February
Yep.
1st is kind of a thing. So We'll have to see, but I look forward to seeing it. Now, if I remember, I use your show to keep up with wrestling at that point, since there's only so much I can keep up with these days. But is it still the idea we don't know who the last one or two people are in the Rumble?
Yes. So the Rumble is they've only announced a certain handful of superstars so far for each one. We don't know who. There's some speculations on it, and I mean one of the funny things is sports betting on wrestling is legal, and which always gets me that sports
Yep.
betting on a predetermined event
I
is
don't know.
legal.
Talk
But
about them divisional playoffs there, Mr. Kansas City. I don't know. Some things are also predetermined, it seems.
hey, a win is a win. A
Oh, okay.
win is a win.
Sorry, I had to get in that dig in. I have no pony in that race. So, but yeah, I was curious. I hear is John Cena one that's been confirmed, or is he one of these speculative individuals?
He has said that he will be making an appearance at the Rumble. But it's not official if he is in the Rumble. But he did say, hey, his path to the top back goes through the Rumble. There's a lot of speculation that he will be the 30th man in that coveted spot in the Rumble. So
Okay.
we shall see. It's
Yep.
I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, it is my favorite of the pay-per-views, not because it's the best, but just because of the pure chaos and fun
Yep.
from the Royal Rumble.
Yep, I agree. Back in the days, I would agree with you. Roy one was always the Joker's Wild of the pay-per-view event. So yeah, so check that out. Check out the gimmick afterwards. I'll be checking out the next day. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at excuse me, on all pretty much all the socials. At Chris Balga. You can check out my other show on weekly Saturday afternoons on the Brave and the Boys channel, the OPB Weekly Buyer's Guide at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So check that out. And we want to, and kind of going through that. Okay, here we are. My notes. We can also email the show at marvelalliance at gmail.com. You can follow our podcast at Marvel a Podcast on Twitter. You can feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions. DMs are open across the board. Continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whichever platform you listen to. We greatly appreciate it. We want to thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Stay safe out there. Thank you all for listening. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, David. Post credits discussion. You teed this one up, so I'm gonna let you put it up there. What are we talking about tonight?
So when award show season came, Agatha all along was in a separate category than everyone assumed, because we thought that it was going to be a limited series, meaning that it was only going to get one episode. But for the categories that it was in, it gave credence to the fact that there was going to be a second season. So
Mm-hmm.
between the ending of the first season and its categorization for award season across the board, people are like, all right, for various different things, it's looking like it's going to get a second season. But we got some confirmation, and it came originally in the form of Patty LuPone, who was on Agatha, by saying there won't be a season two. Schaefer, the creator, came into my trailer and she said, Patty, I'm just here to tell you, Lily's going to die. LuPone recollected during the radio appearance and said, and I went, but I want a second season. To which the director said, not happening, and she doesn't do season twos. So that is not only putting a nail in the coffin for Agatha, but that also kind of puts a nail in the coffin for WandaVision getting a second season unless they decide to go with a new director. It had been said that Marvel offered her a second season. She turned it down because the director said, I don't like to do follow I don't do second seasons. They wanted me to do a second season of WandaVision and I didn't. She said there's too much to write, so she does one-offs.
Yeah, that's an interesting kind of thing, with Jack Schaefer saying that, I respect it. It doesn't mean that Marvel necessarily can't continue on without Jack Schaefer, but I'll say this about Wanda, excuse me, Agatha, that I was the one that was pleasantly surprised, and each week, for the most part, it elevated it, and I was very high up on the show. Even despite the way the show ended, I really was worried about a second season because it's one of those where I wouldn't call it lightning in a bottle, but it wasn't one of those where the ratings I worried it was going to be one like it wasn't going to capture the same thing. Like it was going to be what was unique about the show couldn't be done again. And I know it was our worry with when we heard that the original showrunner of Loki wasn't going to be returning, a lot of us were like, I don't know that it was so good, and then ended up season 2 made it good. So it could have been like that, but I just don't feel that Agatha. I get why it could have a second season. It was gonna worry me of bringing that just because I just didn't know if it could do it again and could possibly um, hurt more than it could help. I don't know. That was my feeling.
Yeah, I get where Jack Schaefer's coming from, especially with both of these seasons, because both of these seasons had a niche to them.
Hmm.
WandaVision, you had the television niche jumping through the decades before the big reveal and then going into its story. With Agatha, you had the spotlight weeks of each character. So going into a season 2 of that, like you said, that's going to be a lot to write. You've did some incredible spotlight episodes of each of these characters. So what would a season 2 look like when you are now just left with Billy and the ghost of Agatha? Like, where do you spotlight from there? I can see that not being a thing. Same with WandaVision. Like, yes, the ending of WandaVision, those last couple of episodes were great, but how do you do that for a full series? The way that it worked with its buildup of the decades going over and over again made it what it was. It gave it that niche to it, that moment where each week where you knew, okay, we're going to 60s TV, we're going to 80s TV and 90s TV. You had that thing to look for. How do you carry that into a full season 2? So I definitely understand there not being a season 2 of either of these. Plus, we also have the upcoming Vision series, so it's not like there's not a chance to see these characters again. But I'm okay with not having a season 2 of either.
Yeah, again, I'm happy with what we get. I'm glad we had it out there. Doesn't mean we won't see these characters again. So yeah, it's it can be disappointing at that point, but we will move forward and see exactly when we do see these characters again. So, but yeah, so we will see you all next week for episodes 3, 4, and 5 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So enjoy your Fridays, enjoy your weekend. We will see you all next week. Bye bye, everyone.
See ya.